Hello, parasocial besties. How have you been? Where have I been? Who knows? Sometimes you just need to fuck off into the void for a month and then come back and pretend nothing happened. This is the fourth time I've tried to make this dumbass video. I'm not happy, and I was so close to giving up until I watched Rachel Oates' video about Colleen, and Rachel showed this clip.
Tantrums still to this day, and I have like anger management problems. There are times where I'm just like, "Argh!" and I just feel like I need to hit something or like scream in a pillow. I used to like actually like rip things up or get angry. So I grabbed my dog for no reason, just grabbed the dog and pinched its skin and dug my nails into it. The dog yelps, turns around to protect itself, and bites me in the face. And I got stitches. I went to the hospital, and they were like, "What happened?" And I was like, "The dog just bit me." And then they had to put the dog to sleep because the dog was dangerous to be around. So I murdered a dog.
That's really sad. And I thought, you know what? Never mind. This little freak of nature is trying to make a comeback, not on my watch. As far as I'm concerned, from my completely unqualified armchair YouTuber psychoanalysis, I think Colleen thinks she's doing better, which is cool. Progress is progress. I don't agree. And that's the intention of today's video. I plan on sitting here and explaining why I think I'm right, that Colleen still doesn't deserve an audience or a platform yet. That's not to say she can't change and grow. She's just not there yet, in my opinion. My concern for this whole situation comes from the fact that I saw Colleen wanted to go perform at the Laurie Beachman Theater in New York, and that's fine, but it's advertised as all ages. Do we not remember what happened before when Colleen didn't know how to act appropriate with all ages? Because I'm pretty sure that's why she's on her redemption tour right now. So like, what are we doing, man? Fortunately, it seems to be Colleen for now, but a lot of people, including myself, theorize that this is going to be a soft launch for Miranda's comeback, unfortunately. And I think I'm doubly right, because I watched a podcast with her annoying ass boomer husband. I can't stand this man parasocially. I don't know him, and I don't want to know him. He's so fucking annoying.
With TikTok? Is that what they're calling it still?
Oh, brother.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they came up with a new name or...
But they were both sitting there during their little podcast getting all nostalgic for Miranda. Her husband says he flat out misses Miranda being around.
I wanted to say that I miss Miranda's take.
This?
How do you do that? What the freaking hey?
This is what you miss. Okay, boss. Like attracts like, I guess. So I guess it's not super surprising that this grown-ass man also found entertainment in Miranda. They're like two peas in a creepy little rotten pod. First things first, I am going to cut out the irrelevant stuff from this interview. These girl bosses right here know how to talk, and so do I. So if I try to do the entire video, we will be here for hours. That was such a good video too. Don't remind me. I triggered myself. Okay. Anyway, so this particular video starts with Miranda and Raven sitting at their little table, giving Colleen Ballinger a glowing review of her career.
Next guest tonight is one of the most popular YouTubers in the world. Her videos have garnered more than 1 billion views online.
Nearing 2 billion views. Now a Netflix show.
You're famous. You're famous. We're both famous.
Colleen has written a best-selling self-help book, is touring around the world, and has appeared with the likes of Jimmy Fallon and Jerry Seinfeld. This is actually the first time that we're meeting Colleen, and we've decided to do it now because we feel like enough time has passed for reflection and learning, and for a real conversation behind the headlines. Our goal isn't to revisit every detail, but to understand the human side of the story that became very public.
It's been 6 minutes into me recording, and I simply cannot. Hold on. Hair's going up. Hello? Okay, whatever. We're dealing with cockatiel hair. The hair's up. We're feeling better. I feel like a person again. Let's continue. Okay, so there are a few things that I want to touch on here. One, Raven.
Who set that system up?
How did it become so public? Maybe because Adam McIntyre was trying to speak his truth, and Colleen was having nothing to do with that. Quick backstory, Adam is basically patient zero for getting the mental ass kicking of a lifetime from Colleen Ballinger. From what I understand, he was Colleen Ballinger's social media manager for a few years while he was still a super young teen, mind you, until one day he posted something that pissed Colleen off. But the thing is, he was a child. Colleen was the adult who approved this post. I think it was something about queer baiting and coming out as a fan of Meghan Trainor or something. The point is that Colleen's fans rightfully got pissy. I mean, yeah, that's not a good joke to make. He was a kid, to be fair. before didn't really get how hurtful jokes like that could be. Unfortunately for Adam, Colleen genuinely just couldn't handle the situation and turned everyone against him. She didn't think to say, hey Adam, this thing that you posted was actually really inappropriate. I'm getting a lot of negative feedback from this. It was never appropriate. I've now been educated as to why it's inappropriate. Let me educate you. Also, I'm changing my passwords. You're no longer my social media manager because actually that was weird upon reflection. That would have been the ideal way to handle this. However, that is obviously not what Colleen chose to do. I'm pretty sure Colleen is a 16-year-old bully trapped in a 38-year-old woman's body. So instead of Colleen just reacting appropriately, she decided that it was high time to rile up Colleen's weenies, her weird little group chat full of mostly teenagers, but there were a few adults in there. Ew, there were also little preteens in there. Gross. So Adam was like, yeah, okay, well, enough is enough. I'm done. So he posted a video on his YouTube. This was only supposed to be for the Colleen's Weenies group. It kind of seems very much like one of those situations where people post on TikTok thinking that the video is just not going to blow up. No one's going to care. It's just going to be their friends and family that see it. But it just kind of blows way out of proportion. And that's kind of exactly what happened with this video that Adam posted, from what I understand. And Colleen got mad about that and got in her big feelings. And instead of just being a normal adult and just walking away from the situation, she got all pissy and sent the weenies after Adam. Now, mind you, this is during 2020. This is quarantine. We're in lockdown. He's 17. He had a bunch of online friends, okay? Like a very strong online community that was suddenly yanked away from him at 17. That was a quick, super messy overview, but I highly suggest just watch Adam's channel if you want like a really good rundown. And let us not forget, Miranda also had multiple other public fallouts, including with Trisha Paytas at the time. It became public because Colleen doesn't know how to shut the hell up, catch a bubble, and stop explaining herself and demanding to be understood. Had Colleen just apologized for any of this in the beginning, this probably all could have been avoided. Actually, she should have started by not catering to children, but we'll get there.
This is actually the first time that we're meeting Colleen, and we've decided to do it now because we feel like enough time has passed for reflection and learning and for a real conversation behind the headlines.
Raven says that she thinks enough time has passed for reflection and learning. Sick. Well, I'm sure that the victims of Colleen also feel like there should have been enough time for growing and learning. However, they're still waiting on apologies, so I guess that much growth and learning hasn't actually taken place. Huh, Colleen? I immediately get so mad thinking about this, and I still have an entire hour-long video to watch. Buckle up. Unfortunately, I don't think that Colleen has learned, and double unfortunately, I think that Raven's actually chastising us. I didn't realize until I was writing the script, but I'm pretty sure she's saying there's been enough time for the public to shut up and simmer down and actually listen to Colleen for once. I hope I'm reading into that, but I kind of feel like, based on the way that I'm pretty sure Raven didn't do a damn iota of research for this, I'm right. I also just like to think I'm right in general. I am thoroughly convinced Miranda and Raven watched one video that we'll talk about later during this as some sort of research, and I think they were just talking about Toxic Gossip Train. I don't think they did any other research outside of that. Otherwise, they would have come prepared with good questions, and Miranda wouldn't have had the opportunity to round out the show like this.
I'd be curious to know your thoughts on what you think your spirit is here to learn.
Don't worry, the question did get worse. I cut her off early. I gotta give you guys a cliffhanger. I gotta keep you around for a little bit. Speaking of cliffhangers,
did you know they were underage at the time?
Clickbaiting children's trauma? Yes, please. They start this hard-hitting interview with joking about their names.
You know her.
You know her. You have to know her. Colleen Ballinger.
That is it. That is my name.
You said it right.
You did.
So Miranda shares that people mess up her name because it's Medea, but it's spelled weird. And Raven, who refuses to be excluded, cuts Miranda off for this banger of a joke that was totally worth cutting off your wife for.
Oh, okay.
So it gets very
Yeah, my name is Raven. People call me Janet. It's so weird. I don't understand.
Okay.
Anyway,
Listen, Raven, I don't really like Miranda either, but you did decide to start a podcast with her, and by extent, she's kind of co-owner, so she is kind of allowed to say things. You have to let her express her thoughts and opinions and be your co-host. I guess it's good that we can all laugh together while we get in the heavy meat of child endangerment, sexual harassment, grooming, you know, light things. Miranda kicks off the interview by acknowledging that there is a big elephant in the room that needs to be acknowledged. And when I first saw this, I was like, oh my god, sick. They're actually getting right into it. Colleen's gonna be held accountable. This is gonna be awesome. And I was wrong. I quickly learned that I was having far too much goodwill and optimism toward these two ladies. ladies. They were not going to deliver the hard-hitting interview experience that I and a lot of other people were looking for. Real talk, I feel so bad for the victims of Colleen, who had to sit there and think just like I did. Oh cool, we're getting right into it. Just to be like, heh, giggle session over names. My name's Janet. Ooh, I'd be so mad. I can't imagine how mad the victims were, specifically Adam. I watched his reaction to this. He was rightfully fuming. He was so mad. It's kind of funny though, because I noticed when Miranda said there's an elephant in the room, Colleen she looked like she was gonna shit herself. It was awesome. But no, she almost immediately learned that they weren't gonna hold her to any sort of high standard of accountability. They were just gonna joke around, make a bunch of funny ha-has, get a paycheck, go home. And Raven isn't doing a damn thing to help the situation. She's the one giggling the loudest in the room. Eventually they stop laughing and Colleen asks if Miranda actually wants to know Miranda Sings' origin story.
I was in college doing a one-act thing, some student-run thing, and I was cast as the role of Miranda. And Miranda was like the mean, rude girl in the show. And
it's so funny because typecasting absolutely exists for a reason, and I don't think there's no point behind Colleen being cast as the mean girl. I'm not saying that anyone who's mean can only play mean parts. Obviously not. I just think that the casting director very much knew what he was doing in that moment when he cast Colleen as the mean girl, Miranda. Now, Colleen says that she created the name Miranda after her character in the play, whatever. It was just top of mind, that's what she went with. But then she conveniently leaves out the part where Miranda's entire identity was based on the cringy girls from YouTube that Colleen liked to make fun of. And I was getting a little more optimistic here. It kind of felt like we were out of the dumb questions. We were getting into Miranda questions. Wrong.
You're a mom of 3 now.
Can't believe that.
I also can't believe that this felt like an appropriate next question. We see Raven shuffle her question cards around a few times during this. I would do my enemy's stinkiest laundry for the next year to know what was on those damn question cards. What was too hard hitting to ask Colleen? Also, I'm not sure if it is Colleen, but that's how Trisha Paytas says it and I really like it. So Colleen it is. So then the triplets babble on about motherhood for a few minutes, and that's not me shading mothers or motherhood or babies. And yes, kids should be the point of this video, but not Colleen's spawn. With peace and love, it's not important. We do have bigger fish to fry. And then for whatever reason, Raven asks Colleen how old she feels in her body.
I'd say mid to late 20s. I feel like I'm stuck there. Maybe even younger. I don't know, but I definitely don't feel like I'm in my 30s.
On the surface, that is a totally chill answer. But I'm a nitpicky little fuck, so let's talk about it in depth a little more. I think it's funny that she feels frozen in time right about when she hit her stride with Miranda. And now it kind of seems like she doesn't know how to move past it. Or just doesn't want to, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't realize it's happening. And you know, I kind of agree. I love saying, I'll grow old, but I'll never grow up. Within reason, though. You don't have to lose your childlike whimsy and grow up. You just have to learn to talk and be normal to people. But Colleen kind of seems stuck in a sad way, not a holding on to your youth and whimsy kind of way. This is just me kind of yapping for a second, but I've heard that you can get stuck at the age when you start dating someone. So I started dating my partner when I was 21. So if we broke up, I would go back to mentally being 21, allegedly in theory. But if this is true, I wonder if it felt kind of like a breakup for Colleen to the point where it just kind of shot her back like a decade, and now she acts and feels like she's 28. I don't know. I just like speculating. Anyway, I'm not judging her for feeling young and stuck at 28. I'm judging her, not really, for not questioning why she feels that age, especially when it kind of overlaps, in my opinion, with when she hit her stride as a big YouTuber celebrity, really. Okay, we're gonna stop being nitpicky. Well,
I'm 38. You look a lot younger than that.
But thank you.
You look like what did you say before we started? A young British boy.
Yes, I'm a young British boy.
The loving words I heard them speak to each other before we started filming.
But let's talk about it though, because you come from a big family.
Never mind. I'm sorry, what? I understand that it's Raven that made the joke initially at Miranda's expense, but later in this interview, Colleen is like, I wouldn't do things for the laugh anymore. If it's gonna hurt someone's feelings, I'm not gonna laugh about it or make the joke. Then why did you just gang up on Miranda? Quick question. It is so mean to say stuff like that even as a joke, and I used to be the kind of person that was like, oh, if I don't bully you, I don't love you. Oh my god. I used to say that all the time. Anyway, me anxiously popping my knuckles. Anyway, I was a pick-me, alright? Leave me alone. I was conservative. conservative. I was going through a lot. There are very few things that I'll joke about like that. But the thing is about making those jokes is that whether or not you mean to, you kind of do internalize it a little bit, I feel like. Or at least a lot of people do. For example, Adam says explicitly in one of his videos that Colleen always used to body check him and that she would make little comments or jokes about his body and his cute little tiny arms. And to this day, he got a little emotional about it because he's like, yeah, it still affects me. Sometimes it comes out and he has to think about the fact that he now has a little bit of body dysmorphia because Colleen wanted to gas up how tiny bitty baby knew his arms were. That is unhelpful for the young boy's psyche, clearly. And that's why making those jokes isn't funny. And to me, Miranda genuinely seems a little kind of hurt by this because she spends the rest of the episode like this, just kind of like tucked in the back. And like even when she leans forward to talk, her arms are crossed. Maybe she's just cold, you know what I mean? I don't know the temperature of the room. I could be completely off. It was just interesting because prior to Colleen and Raven, in my opinion, kind of ganging up on her and making fun of her to her face, she was like, okay, well, off. I'm good. I'm chilling. I'll ask my stupid questions and then you can get the hell out. And I would just love to reiterate that she is working toward performing an all ages show that she posted about only a few weeks after this silly little interview. So weird. What a coincidence, right? This is the woman still giggling her little head off about all this negative shit, and she wants an all ages audience. It's not clocking. We all collectively need to stand on business and prevent this from happening again until she makes noticeable, clear change. And actually, I kind of outlined how she does that in this video. With my zero knowledge, zero know-how, and no qualifications, I'm gonna give her a well thought out and constructed plan for how to apologize and get out from under this once and for all with everyone feeling better, hopefully. Damn, I got a big ego for thinking I could do all that. This next clip is gonna be pretty long, but bear with me.
And I'm sure that when you have that many siblings, like you're just able to say whatever and blurt it out, and it's joking and moving around. And one thing that I learned when I was on The View is that there's a difference between live in front of the audience and what's happening at home. And it took me a while to kind of learn that conversation. So to slowly just kind of talk about it, do you feel like you're at home when you're in front of a camera and you feel like that? Or
it feels like she's trying to lead Colleen into being like, yeah, that's why I acted that way. I forgot to separate reality from behind the scenes, man. My bad. Which, to be fair, I feel like could be a normal conversation for kids that were raised in show business, a la Raven Simone. I think it's nice that she would have that conversation, but maybe have it with like Allison Stoner, you know? Because I think it's a really important conversation to have, honestly. Guys, I forgot my friend was on her way. We're supposed to plan a Christmas party and I forgot until right now. Oops. Well, I'm gonna have to go handle that for a little while and then I'll come back. Yeah, so here's the thing. I did come back post planning of my Christmas party and I did an entire hour and a half additional recording. And guess what didn't record? My fucking audio. So we're back. We're doing this as a voiceover and we're all just gonna have to get right with that. Okay, let's continue. Most adults can discern between oversharing with children and just being open and honest with your audience. Clearly, Colleen isn't one of those adults, and I don't trust that she's changed over her quote-unquote break. So I still don't think that she can be trusted. If you can't figure out that you sitting on your ass and riffing alone in your room is different than messing up and riffing and saying something highly inappropriate with close loved ones, you're kind of the issue, unfortunately. Raven is trying so hard to rationalize Colleen's behavior, but they're coming from such different experiences that Raven sounds just kind of a little goofy here to me. But Colleen's answer pretty much reiterates that she was struggling to meter herself even when she was goofing around alone in her room. She couldn't separate behind the scenes in YouTube life.
I mean, when I started doing YouTube, it was like kind of when YouTube started. The whole appeal of it, I feel like back then, was that these people who were getting famous online, they weren't celebrities. They were real people. We were that was the appeal of it, is that we were your friend. I'm talking to you from my living room, from my kitchen, you know, talking about my day. It's really hard to separate the two between like what's private home life and then what's part of the public persona. To me, it was always one and the same.
You know, I don't trust that she has figured out the line. I think she's starting to learn the line, but based on the way that she continues to dodge accusations in this interview, at the very least, she still doesn't seem to understand the real life ramifications of what she did and how to properly apologize. So Miranda asks what made Colleen want to start YouTube, and Colleen essentially says that it was just to post random little bits for her friends to react to and laugh at. I don't think that that's necessarily entirely untrue, but she did leave out a key component. So we're going to listen to two versions of Miranda. We'll start with 2011 Miranda describing the origins of Miranda. Jesus. Miranda.
Okay, so just explain to everybody how you came up with it.
Yes.
Go.
Okay. I was posting like random YouTube videos of me singing, and I saw like related videos of like these teenage girls posting the same songs that I had sung in performance, but alone in their bedroom. Acapella, changing lyrics and doing whatever they wanted with them. And they were terrible, but they were so cocky. And on their YouTube pages, in their profile, they'd be like, I'm doing this to become famous. And I was like, that's so ridiculous. No one gets famous from YouTube. I went to a private Christian university, and there was a lot of people in my program who had the characteristics of Miranda, the character I do.
Which are what? It's cocky?
Cocky, and just, they talk like this. And just like, they just thought they were so good, and they would record themselves singing songs and post it online for everyone to see. And no bad comments, they only wanted good feedback. So I was just posting it for fun, and then noticed that other people were watching it and writing kind of rude things every once in a while.
Okay, now let's compare that to her watered down version that she tells to Miranda and Raven.
So I created the character of Miranda, and not you, but like my actual character. And I put it online for my friend. It was a joke for my friends because, like I said, I used to sing a little bit off the pitch, like in theater and choir, to make them laugh. So I created this character that was like a little off with her singing, but was really cocky. I thought it was funny, and I put it on to send to my friends.
I can't help but notice that she softened the Miranda Sings origin story to not make Colleen seem like a huge asshole. The express purpose of Miranda was to mock the confident girls. Colleen thought that it was funny, and so did her friends, and it just snowballed from there. There is something to be said about creating a satirical character, and they can be super funny, but in my opinion, Colleen created Miranda from a hateful, mocking place, and knowing that makes Miranda seem a lot less satirical and a lot more like a sad, jealous, hateful 22-year-old theater kid who was just pissed off that people had the balls to post their cringe online. Colleen seems to want to hide behind this cringy character in order to feel confident enough to just try. Who cares if people make fun of Miranda? That's the point. But it takes much more bravery to post your real self online and risk people tearing apart the real you. I genuinely think she was just feeling bitter, and her friends were just as lame as her and encouraged it. Speaking of being lame and hiding behind a character.
Why the red lipstick?
Well, in the beginning, I would do whatever people didn't like, because in the beginning, I thought it was so funny that people couldn't tell if she was real or not, and so people thought it was real.
See, here, Colleen admits that everything Miranda Sings did was to be annoying. Colleen was one of those original YouTube trolls, but she hid behind this obnoxious Miranda Sings characters because then Colleen herself isn't in the crosshairs. Miranda is. I also cut out all of Raven laughing because it's too lighthearted. This is not a silly topic, and I don't want to have a silly, goofy time unless I'm at the helm of the ship. Raven should have taken this way more seriously, but she was too busy huffing laughing gas and having a grand old time with Colleen, making Colleen feel comfy and right at home. Granted, you should do that during an interview, but not like this. There's a difference between creating a comfy space and a space in which to laugh and not take the topic seriously. Colleen continues to answer the question by saying,
So for a while, that was it. Like, people thought Miranda was a real person. Whatever people said they didn't like in the comments, I would do it more. Because I was like, who sits and just writes, like, these are strangers to me. I don't know these people.
Which I find very interesting. What do you mean you don't understand the hate comments? Would you understand it if people made fun of your nudes in front of children like you did with Shishapatis? If the bullying was returned, would you suddenly be able to register how horrible it feels for people to do what you were doing? Trust me, Colleen understands harassment and bullying others, like someone who was a sweet summer child who learned her lesson and is now a self-aware queen.
When they started trickling in, it was like, I don't like how you pronounced this word, and so I'd mess up how I pronounce words more moving forward. I've tried to egg on the comments a little bit in the beginning because I thought it was funny that people thought it was a real character.
And then Colleen has the balls to wonder why only kids wanted to watch one of the most irritating humans on YouTube, because adults don't usually find stuff like that to be funny. I mean, usually. Obviously that isn't true, otherwise Miranda would have never existed with such a big fan base. I also think that Raven would fall into the adults that support and enjoy irritating content, because she really tried to give Colleen an out.
It sounds like you were doing performance art and having the audience inform you of where to go next, knowing that a little tinge of under the note is very appealing at times, right? And that's how you kind of gained your following, by just a little bit of irritation to where people could hate and could love at the same time.
I know I'm making assumptions. They said at the top that they only texted. This is the first time meeting in person. But I wouldn't treat somebody so friendly who was on my shit list. Be nice, obviously, but it's not the best time for a giggle sesh and goofing around. But Raven says people could love and hate Miranda at the same time. And I do think that's true for some characters. Jean and Gail from Bob's Burgers, for example. I have a strong love-hate relationship with them. And the writers of that show know how to make them totally toe the line. So I can see Raven's point, but I also don't think that Raven has consumed an iota of Miranda content circa 2019 when she was at her prime in terms of being insufferable. I watched her react to TikTok clips in a video from 7 years ago, and it genuinely almost made me cry. It was so annoying to realize that all it takes to be famous is being a little troll. Anyway, Raven, watch some Miranda videos from then and then come talk to me about it being a performance piece or whatever. Colleen seems to take weird pride in specifically gay men thinking she's funny. There's a fairly derogatory term for this in the queer community. It is an F slur, hag. I don't care that I'm in the queer community, I still choose not to use that slur. At least in the mainstream, with my friends joking around, I don't care. They can say it. I think a lot of people are too ignorant to understand when people are trying to reclaim a slur, so I just don't risk it online. It seems like she just kind of wants to be a hag and have a big group of gays surrounding her, like this weird queer Pokemon collection. And it's so frustrating because Colleen really seems to pedestalize, quote unquote, the queers. Actually, I think that's a lie. I don't think she likes the queers. I think she likes specifically the gays, and there's a specific type of the gays TM that I'm referring to that I feel like if you get it, you get it. Listen, if you've ever been in theater, you know what I'm talking about, and it's those kind of gays, the mean, ironically homophobic gays, and Colleen loves them. Let's not pedestalize a group of people just because we have a better sense of humor than you, Colleen. Get a personality, get funny, and then you can sit with us. But to say that the gays loved you feels dehumanizing and objectifying in a whole group of people who are just naturally funny and sassy, because it makes Colleen think that she's funny because people who are naturally funny think she's funny. I have met some seriously unfunny gays in my lifetime, so it annoys me that she's like, the gays thought I was funny and so therefore I am funny. Like, that's just how it reads to me and I don't like it. Also, when I originally watched this for the first 3,000 times, I laughed at Colleen because I was like, there's no way people thought she was funny. But then I watched an interview from 2011, and you know what? In 2011, I can see the vision for Miranda. She performed chest and butt, Miranda's version, and her little facial expressions and subtle sense of humor was pretty funny. Believe it or not, she was subtle once, and then she started leaning into the hate comments and got super annoying.
Give me a secret, your smile.
I also swept my dance card once after an audition. On a scale of 10, they gave me, for dance, 10. For looks, 3. Well, dance 10, looks 3. It's like to die. Left the theater and called the doctor for my appointment to buy.
See? I kind of get it. If she had stayed as this character and found a way to make satire music as Miranda and maintain this character with adults, I think she could have been genuinely funny. But instead, we got the Miranda that asks kids their favorite sex position and if they got their periods yet as a joke. So it's no wonder the adults stopped watching.
My comedy was crass and over the top and whatever, but they liked that they were in on this joke. And Miranda was a lot more subtle at the beginning too. You know, over time it became this like really dramatic, more cartoony, intense. And over time, as people commented what they did and didn't like, I would do things more. So in the beginning, people, I think, were drawn to the fact of, is this an actor or not? And then once they figured that out, and then the audience kind of grew and changed over the years, the appeal shifted.
See, I didn't believe her at first, but this interview is what I found really exonerated original Miranda in my world. She was truly good at being a troll initially. People really couldn't tell.
If you watch Miranda's, her first video that really took off is this thing called Free Voice Lesson. And I began getting these videos from like Broadway people being like, oh my God, Seth, you have to see this girl who thinks she's good. People really took it seriously. Like, I think like Joe Mantello sent it to me.
Now, I'm sure lifelong Colleen fans knew this, but I certainly didn't. So fine, 1 point for Colleen. She told the truth once during this entire video. And it was to flex that people couldn't tell if Miranda was real or not.
I noticed people started coming to the shows and saying that they were inspired by the character and they were inspired by her resilience and that she didn't care what haters said about her and she didn't care that people were bullying her. She still just was her true authentic self and was confident no matter what anyone said.
So it just occurred to me that she's referring to people approaching her pre-figuring out that Miranda is a character. So yeah, they were probably just being nice to the sweet lamb who was singing her heart out online. Once they figured out that she was fake, I truly can't imagine people continuing to feel inspired by her. If anything, they probably felt like, ooh, I relate to her and feel confident that someone as awkward as me is trying to rise to fame, and maybe I can too. Just to find out that Colleen was making fun of people like them as Miranda. That's assuming that I'm right about the timeline, but I think I am.
And this was still live, right? This was not on YouTube yet.
Raven, seriously, did you even know who she was before this? Colleen said she was doing stage performances, which birthed Miranda straight into the World Wide Web. She said that. Were you not paying attention? Miranda certainly looks checked out, so maybe they're both just zoning out on Colleen the second she opens her yap. So Colleen reiterates that that Miranda was a role model for the weird girlies.
I think it was good for people to see and hear someone who wasn't traditionally pretty or talented. You know, it was like this weird looking, untalented girl, like, be like, I don't care what you say, I'm so confident. Like, she didn't, you know, Miranda didn't care what anyone said.
God, imagine learning that Miranda wasn't real. I hope to God these kids knew Miranda was fake when they took the inspiration. But what a shitty experience to realize that your idol was created specifically to make fun of people who wanted to legitimately try to be an influencer or singer seriously. Miranda was basically their biggest hater without them even registering it. Again, I'm assuming this is all before people realized it was a bit. Colleen goes on to tell us that Miranda was not intended for children. The 2011 Miranda pretty perfectly captures the vibe of an out-of-touch theater kid in the rudest way possible, which makes sense why other adults thought she was funny, especially other theater kids. They understood, and the character was pretty niche. But Miranda never found a true niche that she could stick with, so she tried to cater to both adults and children, and now we see where she ended up.
Just a loser.
Here's the thing. At the end of the day, whether she meant for it to happen or not, Miranda did end up being for an older teen child audience, and Colleen knew that. And she still tried to treat the character as though she was dealing with adults, meanwhile knowing for a damn fact that she had more children than adults in her audience.
And even when I did my Netflix show, I came to a couple of my live shows, the people involved, and they're like, oh, there's a lot of teens here, so let's put this on the kids app. And I was like, whoa, this is not a kids show. Like, I do not want this on the kids app. That would be inappropriate. Like, this is 100% not for children.
This killed me just a little bit. Now Colleen can truly never deny that she knew she had a teen audience. The people at Netflix tried to help her out and said it was a teen audience. She was so stubborn, but then still didn't change her content when an entire team of people said, hey, your content attracts kids and teens.
But they really wanted it there because they saw a younger audience. You want the younger audience to be able to see this. And I was like, that's fine, but like, they need their parents' approval because this is not a kid show and this isn't a kid character. So I never set out for it to be for kids.
The longer I get into this video, the more angry I get. This isn't a kid show or a kid's character. Okay, so then why did you later mention that you liked hanging out and making content with an 11-year-old JoJo Siwa? Actually, do you guys remember how I mentioned there was a YouTube video where she was reacting to TikToks and it just was super unfunny? I'm gonna show you that specifically to make a really quick point.
Oh, is that James Charles? He's wearing lots of makeup. Whoa! Porn! Put on a freaking shirt! So look, I can see his entire freaking nipple! That was inappropriate.
Oop, not James catching a stray here. But this is just point one. She named a creator aimed toward teens.
Is that JoJo Siwa? She took out the bow! That girl looks mean because she's in black and white, so that means she's mean.
And again.
Is that Maddie Ziegler? Jacob's Sagittarius!
And now we have a 2-for-1. How can Colleen say that she wasn't made for kids and teens in one sentence and then turn around and specifically mention kids and teen themed creators? She couldn't make a reference to people that adults care about? Okay. She couldn't have said that he looked like Cynthia, who's a really cool dancer? A lot of millennials would have gotten that joke, and that probably would have gone straight over a lot of kids' heads. I hope I'm making sense. Okay, but let's get back to current Colleen. The gays catch another stray as her comedy barometer.
Like I said in the beginning, my comedy was pretty crass. And you can go back and look at like my old original content. My humor was that of like a mid-20s girl who was in theater and with all my gay friends just we were being like silly and ridiculous and crude.
The gays TM aren't just a bunch of funny bitches. We're multifaceted. It feels very othering. Why can't it just be my friends? Maybe she's trying to make the two lesbians in front of her feel comfortable. Like, look, just because I went to a private Christian institution doesn't mean I don't love gays. I'm not gonna hate crime you. She also has a gay sister, so maybe she's just trying to seem gay friendly. But it feels like she's using the gays as validation, and it's kind of gnarly, man.
You had a 20-year run. You explained that you hustled to make that character what it was. And then the world imploded.
Mm-hmm. And who set that system up?
And then you got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had all these accusations and a lot of voices come through the screen that had been rooting for you for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You had the rug pulled out from underneath you.
That is an extremely flattering retelling. That is actually not what happened. Colleen was exposed for being the definition of a groomer, but in her case, she was grooming kids to be chill with adult topics and grooming them to be good little bullies, just like their supreme leader, Colleen Ballinger.
When you first got that ting about, oh no, something is going astray,
mm-hmm.
what happened personally, internally, to you?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't give a shit. The implication here is that she had plenty of opportunities to tap the brakes, recognize what was going on, have a ting of recognition, and then ski right past those red flags.
You know, it was kind of a slow build. And I feel like I felt it brewing for a little bit first. It was a very jarring experience.
No, rationale denied. Again, she just said that she knew it was happening, and yet she has the audacity to say the situation was jarring. The thing is you're not usually jarred by things that are anticipated. It usually means that you were taken off guard. So I really don't see how this could be both jarring and somewhat expected.
First, I think I should say, when my audience kind of grew and it went from this older audience to a lot more teens watching me, I didn't adjust my comedy because I was like, well, they found me doing this, so this is what they like and this is what I like, so I'm going to keep doing the comedy they like. And I did adjust it a little bit. But one thing that I didn't do is I didn't adjust my interactions with my fans.
She acknowledges that there was a power dynamic that she ignored. But you know what? I'm going to push back on that. I think she was not only aware of the power imbalance, but she went out of her way to abuse it, which is extremely clear when we think about how she sicked her fans on Adam to kind of run him out of the online town. She knew there was a power imbalance when she thought it was cool to show kids naked pictures of Trisha Paytas, and I argue it is a power imbalance because she was an adult, so if she's doing that, it must be okay. It isn't, it never was, but she's grooming these kids into thinking it's normal, at least in my opinion, hence groomer. And then Raven asks this question.
Do you feel like not having a team earlier in your career hindered you from making better decisions?
Good question. What? If you had good friends or people around you who don't enable you, you don't have to hire people. I know for a fact that my friends watch my video, and if I posted that lingerie live stream, they would have immediately called me and been like, hey, take that down. We need to talk. Are you going through something? What made you think that was cool, dude? Oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself with the lingerie thing. We'll get there in a few minutes. We have another cliffhanger. The point is, you shouldn't need a team to tell you how to not sexually harass children and teach them how to bully other kids effectively. Do you want to guess what Colleen says?
I definitely wish I had someone to give me advice. I was with that group of like the first YouTubers that kind of like rose to any sort of stardom or fame, you know, in the beginning.
Okay, so based on the way that most of those original creators have been through way more controversies than a lot of current creators, I see what she's saying, kind of. I feel like the issue back then is that we hadn't quite figured out that the internet is in fact forever.
So it's not like there were people before me doing this that I could look to and ask questions about. This was a new thing. And so, and I'm not saying that as an excuse, you know.
Okay, so this one is a personal nitpick, but if it's not an excuse, why does it sound like an excuse? Colleen hasn't even apologized to her victims yet, so it absolutely comes off as an excuse, whether or not she meant it to. You can give your rationale after apologizing if the victims want it. But right now, Colleen is just sucking up the bandwidth on YouTube with her goofy ass excuses that she says aren't excuses. So Colleen goes on and on about how she just wanted to make her fans happy, respond to every fan letter. Colleen reflects and asks, why didn't I think more about a parasocial relationship? And Miranda is like, okay, so do you have an answer for us, or?
You know, I think it all boils down to me just really wanting to make them the people-pleasing tendency of like, I want to do this because this will make they're begging me to.
You wanted them to love you.
I wanted them to love me.
Raven, please let Colleen finish a sentence. Let her walk herself to the corner. Stop rescuing and redirecting her. Next, Miranda asks,
when did you realize that people were starting to be negatively impacted?
And the way Colleen answers seems like she didn't realize people were being negatively impacted until 2020, after the Adam incident, quote unquote.
I'd see people who had been fans for a long time, would come to every show, were commenting on everything. I would talk to them and I knew them, and to see them slowly drop off one at a time was like, oh, they're very upset.
Which to me seems like a great time to tap the brakes and reassess. But Colleen admits herself that she was much more interested in clearing her name, which is why I think it wasn't until everything started going haywire with Adam, aka Colleen started attacking a literal child and trying to ruin his online life. She really should have been paying attention so much earlier, and ideally never made the accidental pivot over to child content. You have to pay attention to your analytics and your audience and not try to please everyone. But that's simply not the Miranda Singh style. Colleen wanted wanted to be marketable for adults and kids, but Colleen. Changing her entire character to fit the most annoying personality traits or aesthetics possible is not what most adults are into. Most adults realized Miranda was a bit, and it's really only funny to kids. Most well-adjusted adults just keep it moving, and they don't really consider making mean comments. So Raven asks what Colleen thinks people mean when they accuse her of having grooming behavior, and Colleen chooses not to answer and instead dance around the question and then reframes Raven's question and then answers in the most butt way possible.
Asked, what does that mean to other people? That's why this was a hard thing for me to know how to navigate, because it wasn't about what did she do or what didn't she do. It was more about what was her intention behind some of these actions, I think. And my intention was being decided for me by people talking about it.
You guys, stop putting words in her mouth. Stop deciding her actions for her. God, it was just a joke, you guys. Obviously, she's not a groomer. Okay, but here's the thing. If she had just apologized and not continued to fight tooth, claw, and nail to exonerate herself, people would not have had the opportunity to run wild with assumptions. I feel like she clearly still doesn't understand and blames others for their reactions, rather than her just being upset with herself and changing in a true, meaningful way.
My intention wasn't to hurt or do anything negative ever. Now, that doesn't mean that people weren't hurt.
Right.
And that's the part that I wish I had paid more attention to. But I obviously didn't handle the situation the way that I should have. And it's really embarrassing. I wish that I could handle it a lot differently than I did.
When you say that, are you talking about like the apology
Talking
videos?
about a musical instrument that I should have not picked up.
Why isn't her response, damn, I wish I hadn't catered toward children?
Yes, I mean, I should have listened to what people were saying, and I should have...
I think people want an apology.
I love the way Raven puts her hand up to stop Colleen. She should have just let her dig her hole. But no, Raven had to come to Colleen's rescue and had to make her apologize.
Here's the thing, is when you mess up and when you make a mistake and do something wrong, sometimes you gotta keep apologizing for it. And that's what I should have done.
That is the most true thing Colleen has said this entire interview so far. But of course, she can't stop here. She has to keep defending and explaining.
And people keep saying it's an apology song. I didn't apologize in that thing.
You did not.
I did not.
You know what?
There
you are
was
correct.
no
You did not
sorry
apologize.
in that.
You did not. I was actually laughing. I'm letting you know. That was some crazy penmanship.
I can appreciate Raven finally being contentious, even as a joke, but Colleen seems kind of annoyed at Raven's feedback, and Raven makes a similar joke later in the episode that really feels like it grinds Colleen's gears.
It blew shit up.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It was.
I'm aware.
Okay, just letting you know, that was crazy, bro.
And it feels like Colleen is just trying to bulldoze past the discomfort, in my opinion. Colleen spends a few minutes reflecting on the fact that she was way too angry to handle the situation and never should have, in fact, posted toxic gossip train. Which, yeah, obviously, she even said it in the beginning of the song.
My team has strongly advised me to not say what I want to say.
She said that her team told her not to do this, and she did it anyway. And Colleen starts to take accountability a few times and then just backpedals and hits us with the, but I just didn't think about it, or I just wanted to clear my name. No, we know you won't stop saying that. This interview is basically an hour and 5 minutes of static mouth noises and rehashed explanations. Of course, Colleen can't spend too long being self-aware, and they have to go back to having a good old time.
You know, my audience, that was one of the reasons they liked watching me. And so then to suddenly be like, not only am I not going to talk about this, I'm going to sing this song about it. And like, and it was such a
You're a mess.
choice. It was such a choice. Very much.
Such a choice, bro.
Imagine being attacked relentlessly online by Colleen, or just being bullied by her in general, just for her to go and post a non-apology in 2023, making a joke out of multiple of the situations, and then 2 years later, making more jokes about it on a podcast with one of your well-recognized childhood actresses, because that was Adam. He said he was in the middle of rewatching That's So Raven when this happened, and could you imagine? You get ratioed by an online predator and your online bestie just for Raven Baxter to laugh about your trauma and not stand up for the victims. There were so many chances for Raven or Miranda, because she is there too, if barely, to stand up for these kids and stop making jokes and making light of some super dark situations. How hard is it to redirect the conversation, ladies? All they needed to say was, do you laugh when you're nervous? Okay, we understand that. We wanted to make it clear that this isn't funny, you're just nervous, and then they just put a stop to the jokes. Let Colleen keep her coping skill and take charge of the situation. Jesus. yes, someone give me an interview with Colleen. I'll do better than these two goofballs. You know what I just realized? Remember how earlier she said that she thought a team would be more beneficial? She wished that she had had some sort of YouTube Sherpa to keep her out of the mud. She literally paid people to be, but Colleen went rogue anyway. She seems really self-aware until you break down what she says. She really can't help but contradict herself every so often. A few more explanations are rendered, and Miranda actually asks a very good question that Raven ended up dumbing down for Colleen.
So where do you think your mind went during that time that you were so unable, I guess, to have the perspective you have now?
Were you trying to save a character? Were you trying to save yourself?
Obviously, Colleen ignored Miranda's more difficult, introspective questions in lieu of Raven's brain-dead, unhelpful ones. And I mean brain-dead in that you would have to be in order to not answer these questions yourself without Colleen's input. We all know why, but we don't know how her perspective has shifted in the way that Miranda asked about. Instead, we learn that Colleen got her feelings hurt by people turning on her. Had she not manipulated children into turning on another child, maybe people wouldn't have turned back on her. So Colleen dances around calling herself a groomer for a second and just bitched about how bad it felt to have such a horrible label. But don't worry, Raven said it for her.
To be accused of that, knowing that I'm not.
Are you speaking of grooming?
Credit where it's due. Raven did put Colleen in her place for a second.
Grooming and in any way harming children is the opposite of something or someone I am or ever would want to be.
You know I'm nothing if not annoying and pedantic. That being said, I love that Colleen paused before saying would want to be, because she can't say I ever was, because that's just objectively untrue. I wonder if it was on purpose.
To be connected to those words, it was devastating. It still is. And and you know, that's something that will, you know,
It'll follow you around.
It will.
As it should. At least until she makes genuine change. We get straight from that into the yoga challenge bit, and I'm gonna skip over it for now because I'm gonna bring it up in a second in conjunction with the cheese ball bit. What I will say is that I think it's weird that Colleen chose a couples challenge instead of, I don't know, the ice bucket challenge or something more innocent. She could have done the mannequin challenge. That was a thing then, wasn't it?
I feel terrible about that. Genuinely, when I heard about that, I felt so bad because that is something I'd never want to do, is trigger anyone, but especially a girl who's been through horrible things in that manner. Like that, it feels so terrible that me doing this silly yoga joke, in my mind was a silly yoga joke, could be something that could trigger her in such a negative way.
I'm also gonna push back on the way that Colleen insists she feels horrible. She wishes she had never heard the girl on stage for the yoga challenge. But it kind of seems like Colleen isn't sorry enough to gather the courage to apologize face to face and possibly endure negative feedback and criticism.
I'm really proud of anyone who's been able to come forward and express that, because I want kids and minors and anyone to be able to feel like they can speak up if they're uncomfortable.
She may be able to pull the wool over Raven and Miranda, but that's because they don't know shit about nothing with the Miranda Sings saga. But if they were informed hosts, they would have pushed back and stopped her. Maybe asked, why were you catering toward them when they started bringing things to your attention? Why did you continue to cater to kids after that? Me personally, I have about 1,000 questions. And I'm gonna point it out again, that she was grooming them so they wouldn't feel uneasy or uncomfortable. I feel like she wanted to normalize how she was treating people and kids so they would just accept it.
It was for the laugh. You know, you're on stage and it is different than when you're online and you can read comments from people who go, hey, that's not cool. And you can go, oh, crap. When you're on stage and everyone's laughing and enjoying it and then telling you after that was the best part of the show when you did this, this, and this.
I call bullshit. There isn't a world where I would believe that there weren't comments that give feedback that she was being a giant weirdo. Yeah, when you're on stage, you can't just get feedback to redirect in that moment, but you can read and absorb feedback when the show is over and the reviews do come in. What this says to me is that she was going out of her way to avoid negative comments and reviews. Because I think if she had actually paid attention, she would have taken them to use them to improve Miranda and the show in general, and not just the part where she sings her hate comments and then chose to censor herself instead. But does she clock that about herself? No.
And a lot of the comedy that I did with Miranda, when my audience shifted, I was like, okay, how do I keep this audience that liked this crass humor and now appealed to this younger audience that now is growing so much?
Okay, so you did know better. Colleen knew she had a young audience, despite the intention of Miranda to be for adults. I know she says it, but she really tries to distance herself from that fact, and I refuse to let that happen.
And my solution to that was I will still do these more crass innuendo type jokes, and it'll go over the kids' heads, and then the parents will have something to laugh at, and the adults will have something to laugh at that are in the audience.
Ooh, a swing and a miss with that one, Colleen. I came equipped with two of my favorite examples of jokes for adults hidden in kids' content. There are a bunch of great examples, so comment your favorite, but the two that come to my mind are Bluey and Cars. There's an episode in Bluey where Chili and Bandit seem to be hungover, and they reference their wild uncle basically doing drunk frat boy shit, but Bluey and Bingo just thought that they had sleepy parents. Meanwhile, the parents were fighting for their hungover lives. The parents can laugh along and recognize what's going on, and the kids are just entertained at the story. In Cars, it was really just a piston cup joke. I didn't get that one until I got older, and my vocabulary grew to include the word piss. And I'm gonna give an honorary mention to Miss Rachel Oates, who also mentioned the overcompensation joke in Shrek. Kids don't understand Farquaad is overcompensating for his ween. They think it's for his height, and it was still a joke that included a sexual component in a kid's movie. But it was done so well that kids don't really get it. That is how you joke about sexual concept with kids in the room, Colleen.
Do you feel like you have a different perspective now between, let's say, like bad judgment and harmful behavior?
I definitely do. Yeah, I certainly think that and especially now, now that I'm a mom.
I'm cutting you off again, Colleen. You were a mom then. Excuse denied. Try again. Miranda asks Colleen if any parents ever confronted her weird behavior after the show, and Colleen says no, but they were mad about the hate comment ukulele song that she played at the beginning, so she bleeped the words and censored it. I mean, it's something, I guess.
And we also changed on the website everywhere, like, this is a PG-13 show, like, making sure everyone knew that this was not a kid show.
I'm sorry, are 13-year-olds not kids to you? It would explain a lot, to be honest.
In fact, I was usually told, oh my gosh, these jokes that were, they didn't get it, but it was so funny when I can't believe, it was always the shock of like, I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you did that. And I was always told that it was all funny and it was so ridiculous.
It would be super helpful if she could give examples instead of just cutting herself off. But I don't think there are any, and she's realizing that in real time, and that's why she's stumbling her way through this response.
It was so funny when I can't believe, it was always the shock.
This entire thing was just such a flop on Raven and Miranda. They felt that enough time had passed to talk about this, so why not invite Adam and Trisha and any of the other victims to tell their story instead? Why are Raven and Miranda so invested in clearing Colleen's name? So Colleen goes on to say that she fully blames herself, which I don't believe, but whatever helps you sleep at night. And then Colleen tells the story about her at the fair.
They had these like colorful little kid ukuleles, and I was like, oh, I want to get one for one of our kids, and my husband was like, no. And I didn't even register to me, which is crazy because I always think about it. And I was like, no, what? He's like, do you have something to put it in? I was like, I'll just carry it. And he goes, no, we're in a public place. No. And I was like, what's wrong? And he was like, you cannot hold a ukulele that is hot pink.
Damn, he really should have let her. I let Colleen be ridiculed and embarrassed and learn a thing or two. I'm starting to realize that Colleen doesn't have friends. She just has yes men surrounding her, backing her up, feeding her less damning responses. Raven, looking at you. It's another instance of Colleen simply not understanding optics. If she really felt bad, she wouldn't be making a joke out of it. It might be funnier once the dust is settled and apologies are made and an understanding is reached, but we're not there yet. Anyway, they're back at it again, having a grand old time at the expense of others. Even though Colleen says at one point that I've learned not to do things for the laugh.
You look like a young British boy.
Even if it means hurting someone else. And that's not my read on the situation, but feel free to disagree.
Now, this is a live show. My apologies for never going and seeing the entire thing.
I love how it kind of implies that Raven did see little bits of it, though. Like, she popped in for the middle 15 seconds, but she wasn't impressed, so she left.
If you could explain why there is a clip of YouTube of a little boy eating Cheetos out of your pants, could you explain that for the audience, please?
Miranda swoops in to rescue Colleen and explain exactly what the bit was. But this is my edit, so I'm not giving Colleen that reprieve. I will say that this is when I was 1,000% sure Raven had no idea what was going on and was simply here for the paycheck.
Oh, he was taking see, that's how things get twisted.
Right. Yeah.
So could you explain it, please?
Because Raven obviously can't be bothered to look anything up first. Jesus, this is just so embarrassing.
Well, I mean, what a crazy thing to hear that there's a woman on stage and there's a young person taking food out of her pants and eating it on stage. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, that sounds horrible. And it was. I want you all to come on a potentially triggering journey with me for a second. Don't worry, we won't stay in this scenario for long, but this is going to be where the yoga challenge bit comes in from earlier. I'll put a timer for those of you who are sensitive to topics surrounding what I would consider to be child sexual harassment. Everybody take a deep breath, and as you exhale, you're going to drop into Miranda Sings POV. You look out across the stage and see past the glaring lights hundreds of people who are clinging to your every word. You just got a teen girl to come on stage, and you notice that she's in a short romper, but that's okay. Nothing will actually show. So you ask her to lay in front of you on her back with her legs straight up in the air. And as you spread her legs, a fart noise sounds on stage, and you happen to glance down to realize that you're staring straight down at a child, legs open in front of you, doing a challenge that you took inspiration from because you saw couples doing it. And now you're here. Okay, we're done with that POV. Sure, that was never the intention, but that child grew up to be sexually assaulted, and when she thinks of this moment with Colleen, it evokes similar emotions to her being assaulted. So clearly, regardless of intention, it never should have been done to a vulnerable child. Okay, now we have POV 2. We're gonna do another timer, and this one's worse, so go ahead and buckle up. So we're all going to take another deep breath and drop into the Miranda POV once again. It's the same scenario. You're sitting on stage on a stool, and to your left, you have a young boy sitting on his own stool. You're pretending you're at a movie, and you're trying to sneak a snack into the theater. So in order to complete the bit, you turn to this child and ask him to reach into the top of your pants to grab a snack. Alright, POV over. Gross. I don't want a child's hand anywhere near there under any circumstances. So why was Colleen so cool with doing it multiple times? That never felt weird to her, because I just did a guided meditation about it, and now I need to go take 3 scalding showers and a bleach dive. It is truly something that she was able to make these same jokes repeatedly and not get uncomfortable. And I also can't help but mention that Adam said in his video that he really wanted to participate in one of these challenges. And because he was going to the Dublin show, he asked Colleen if he could be called on stage for one of these challenges, and allegedly she point blank told him he was too young. So do with that information what you will. I'm really not willing to give Colleen the space to clear her name here, so I'm gonna repeat what she says, because Colleen tries to soften the blow a lot. She says that it was in line with Miranda's character, but guess what? People with morals won't even do that for a bit. There are plenty of examples of actresses or actors either asking for script changes or altogether declining roles that don't align with their values and morals. So again, let's all put ourselves in the perspective of an adult woman doing this as a joke, and then tell me why it took her a year to stop doing the cheese ball bit where kids had to reach into her pants. She never says that it was because it felt weird to ask a kid to reach into her pants, and that is weird to me. Okay, so now we're gonna scoot away from live shows and get right into the Adam situation, quote unquote. And this is the last major thing that I want to touch on with this video.
So you have admitted to sending lingerie to an underage fan. And I know you've talked about this before, but I would like to ask you one more time to address this and kind of what happened and how you're feeling about it now.
I really appreciate that Miranda calls it what it was, lingerie. Yeah, arguably it is a bra and underwear set like Colleen says, but it doesn't elicit the necessary imagery for the situation. Again, I could be reaching, but Colleen seems to really soften the language that would hold her accountable. Now I want to shift gears for just a moment and look back on this moment in time where Colleen offered Adam lingerie. I'm not going to add my commentary to this. I'm just going to cut it down and show you, and then go straight into current day Colleen Ballinger's retelling of the story. There is a striking difference.
Corey's still chilling with lingerie on. Ew, that's an ugly shirt. No, put that shirt in the bin. Oh my god, that makes me laugh. I want to send him something. Do you want the bra, Adam?
Adam, do you want the bra and panties? Tweet right now.
Adam, let me know what you want. He's in Ireland. Hi, Adam. I love you. Oh, hard the shade. Okay, maybe he'll want the panties. Although then his parents will be like, "You're not allowed to watch who is sending you panties." He'd be like, "Mom, don't worry. I watched a boy wear them online first." Okay.
I was opening up a box of clothes that I had bought, and in it was this underwear bra set that I didn't order, and it was we were all laughing about it. So everyone in the chat was laughing about it, me and my friend, and he actually put it on over his clothes and was like, "Look at this," and we were laughing about it. And there are people in the comments saying, "Oh, send that to me, send that one to me," and they're like, "We're not going to do that. That's crazy." But then there's one fan in particular who kept asking us to send it, and I was like, obviously you can tell in the live, like I'm like hesitant about it because there is a little bit of brains in there somewhere that was like maybe not. because I hesitated. But then I was like, and I didn't send it. I didn't. But then it was just became an inside joke with the fandom, and everyone was like telling me to send it, and he kept asking for it. It was like months of this. And so finally I did, and it was very public and as a joke.
So there's a lot to unpack here. First things first, Colleen, you did not hesitate. He did not ask you first, and you were laughing the entire time. She very easily could have offered Adam the ugly shirt that they were joking about, or literally anything else. Point 2, when Adam did accept the lingerie, Colleen straight up says out loud, the parents may think it's weird, but that just kind of seems like Colleen stating the obvious and then doing the bad thing anyway. Without saying it fully, she acknowledges that it is weird, and any rational parent would be completely off put by this. I get so heated over it because it is genuine bullshit, and that's really the last of the clips that I wanted to talk about. I don't want to talk about her spirit journey. I don't want to hear her explanation, and she spends the last of this podcast either victim blaming or boo-hooing, and I'm quite frankly over it. It's also repetitive, and I feel like I'm talking in circles at this point. All in all, I do not think that Colleen Ballinger deserves her platform back, but I'm not her victim, so it's really not up to me. It's just my 2 cents. But what do you guys think? I hope that Colleen proves me wrong, because I'm always willing to be wrong about people in this way. I doubt it, but a woman can dream. If you had fun, please remember to subscribe, and liking this video is super helpful too. They are easy and free ways to help me achieve my goal of living off of that YouTube money. Okay, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Goodbye.